You want to get into Davidson College? I want to help you do it. My name is Craig Meister. I'm a college admissions coach. You can learn more about me and how you can work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process on my website, which is collegemeister.com. And if you're interested in learning about whether or not you are or your student is on track for selective college admission in the United States of America, visit areyouontracktogetin.com. Again, that's areyouontracktogetin.com, at which you will complete a free 3-minute assessment. Your results will be emailed to you right away, and they will help you clarify whether or not you are or your student is on track for selective college admission in the United States of America. Davidson College, I think, is completely underrated, even though those in the know realize it's quite a strong institution. The masses have not heard about it like they've heard about other similarly impressive liberal arts institutions in the Northeast, like Amherst or Williams or Middlebury. Davidson College is located just about 25 minutes north of Charlotte, North Carolina. So there are a lot of easy airline connections right into Charlotte, and it's a hop, skip, and a jump north of Charlotte. And therefore, you have a big city nearby, but you have a beautiful cloistered campus right in Davidson to enjoy. And as a result, I think you get the best of both worlds. You get a small liberal arts institution. You also get a big city with bustling stuff happening very close by. And so that's wonderful for those people who are looking for that type of lifestyle. It's also warmer, of course, than similarly impressive liberal arts colleges in the Northeast. So a lot of things are going for Davidson, in my opinion. And therefore, that's why I'm doing this video today, how to get in to Davidson College. Tip number 1, below this video, in the video description, there is a link to my classic article, How to Get Into the Ivy League Ethically. That's over at admissions.blog. I want you to read that article from start to finish, absorb every word of it, because if you can do everything recommended in that article, you are going to best position yourself to enter the first day of 12th grade year primed and ready to go and get in, hopefully, to Davidson College. It basically explains the key ingredients you need to be preparing throughout your high school career in order to glide right into any selective college or university like an Ivy. And let's be frank, Davidson College has an overall acceptance rate now that's less than 15%. Now, you know I don't love overall acceptance rates because they, of course, obscure the reality of the differentiated acceptance rates relative to ED1, ED2, and regular. We'll get to that in a minute. But an overall acceptance rate of 14.5%, which is the latest one that Davidson College has posted as of this video production, is quite paltry. And so that's right up there with other highly elite, highly selective institutions in the United States. It rejects many more students that it accepts. So you must be well positioned academically and in all the other ways mentioned throughout that article of how to get into the Ivy League ethically. So please read it carefully. You will be very happy you did. Tip number 2. Davidson College has perfected enrollment management techniques that allow it to harness the power of early decision in order to build its classes. This is important to understand. There is a 3-to-1 ratio acceptance rate wise for ED versus regular at Davidson College. So if you are willing and able to commit to attend Davidson, if everything is in order, if you're all of your ducks in a row financially, and feel like, this is a place that you will sign on the dotted line if accepted, I strongly recommend you apply to Davidson College Early Decision 1. If you can't do Early Decision 1, they also offer Early Decision 2. Early Decision 1 notification is a month later. They're basically November 15th deadline right now. You hear by roughly December 15th or 16th. So basically, you just have to wait a month once you submit that application at the latest on November 15th. That's the deadline for ED1. ED2 deadline is roughly January 5th or so. You hear by the end of January, so even less than a month turnaround time for ED2. But again, if you know Davidson is your first choice school early in your senior year and you have the strong grades and you have the test scores, we'll talk about that in a second, and you've taken a rigorous curriculum and you've done all the other things necessary that we're going to talk about in this video, then I think that you should definitely consider Early Decision 1 in any given year. Again, 3-to-1. 3-to-1 is a huge spread in terms of ED acceptance rate versus regular acceptance rate. That you have 3 times higher chance statistically of getting in to Davidson Early Decision 1 than you do regular decision. I will also note that while 14.5% is quite intimidating, and that can again fluctuate from year to year, maybe this coming year will be 13%, I don't know, but for the overall acceptance rate, or even what they call the regular acceptance rate, maybe even lower, frankly. The fact of the matter is, because sometimes they report the regular acceptance rate differently than the overall acceptance rate. The overall acceptance rate doesn't exist, of course. It's just an average of all three acceptance rates of ED1, ED2, and regular. But long story short, the fact of the matter is, Davidson College has a early decision acceptance rate that is minimum right now, I think in the 30% range. That's the minimum. A few years ago it was like 43%. So you can just do the math when the early decision acceptance rate is in the 30s or low 40s, and the regular acceptance rate is going to be a third of that. That's a huge psychological difference. So please try, if you know it's your first choice, to give yourself the best shot, apply early decision. But you are binded, so don't do it if you're not willing to go, because you know that's not right to bind yourself and then pull out. All right, so tip number 3. This is also really important. Testing is optional still as of this video recording at Davidson College. And with that said, as mentioned in that article, How to Get into the Ivy League Ethically, you really should be shooting for the very top of the SAT or ACT score ranges in order to best impress the admissions officers over at Davidson College. If you can't earn what I would call like a 1400 or higher on the SAT or the equivalent on the ACT, then you may be best positioned to just hide your scores. It obviously is a case-by-case situation. So don't take this as official medical advice for you, because the fact of the matter is, let's say you're a straight B student and you're getting a 1390 on the SAT. The 1390 on the SAT actually is better than your grade. So in that case, I would actually say submit your SAT score. So that's always a case-by-case situation. But overall, the averages for SAT and ACT are quite high at Davidson College. So it's, not dissimilar from an Ivy League level school. A lot of kids submitting scores in the 700s on the SAT, lots per section. So that's, high 1400s or higher on the SAT. In terms of the ACT, lots of kids submitting scores 34, 35, 36, even some 33s. But once you get into the low 30s or 20s, you're on much thinner ice as it relates to the value added for you to submit SAT or ACT scores. So keep that in mind. In a test optional environment, you never want to do anything to betray weakness. But weakness is, of course, all relative to what the rest of your application looks like. So just keep that in mind. You always want to try to put your best foot forward. Tip number 4, on the supplement to the Common App for Davidson, there are nice opportunities to differentiate yourself. Most specifically, of course, students think about the 2 short essays on the Davidson College Supplement. I will just make a note here. I'm not going to talk about the Common App essay today. That's obviously really important for Davidson as well. Below this video, in the video description, I include a number of links to older videos I've produced specifically related to how to make the most of the Common App essay for any school you're applying to with the Common App. But today we're going to dive into the Davidson specific supplement on the Common App so that you can get my sense of what's most important there. I want to start with the fact that Davidson gives you the opportunity in its contact section to share contacts you've had with the college. This is pretty important. They even use the term demonstrating interest, at least during the 23-24 admissions cycle. They did, and it was said that demonstrating interest and getting to know colleges and universities can be done in a variety of ways. Please select all the ways you have explored and expressed interest in Davidson. Then they give you a drop-down menu and let you indicate all the things you've done: campus visit, coffee/reception, college fair, Davidson community member, example, admissions counselor, coach, current student, faculty, graduate, staff, etc., email, high school counselor, high school visit, mailing, other, self-guided campus tour, social media, virtual programming, website. When you click on the Davidson community member, it also gives you a new drop-down that gives you a chance to actually name the individuals or individual with whom you are referring or to whom you are referring. And you should definitely do that. Be as specific as you possibly can. Demonstrating interest is important for a college like Davidson. Unfortunately, Davidson does not actually offer evaluative interviews, which I love when they're offered at colleges, because you get to take part in an interview and get evaluated for doing so and your performance. But Davidson does not allow that. But they do allow, and again, the supplement, the opportunity to share how the student has learned about the college. And Davidson wants to know you're a more serious applicant, especially during the regular round, in order to take you seriously. But even during the ED rounds as well, you want to make it clear that this was not just an ED decision on a whim, or if you're applying regular, this was not just an application you wanted to drop in at the last minute on a whim. This is something that you've been building up to, you've done your research, you've done your due diligence, and this is your opportunity to show that you really have deep and unvarnished interest in Davidson College. They want to make sure that that is the case, so that they will be more likely to take you seriously as an applicant. Beyond that, there's another opportunity that I'm very excited about on the supplement to the Common App for Davidson, which is that they give you the opportunity to provide a close friend or classmate with a link to complete a peer recommendation. Again, I mean, this could always change in the future depending on when you are watching this video, but a peer recommendation is a nice opportunity for Davidson to get to know you as someone other than a student or a counselee of a counselor, right? You have a counselor recommendation requirement. You have 2 teacher recommendation requirement. But Davidson also gives you the opportunity for a peer, and not just an opportunity, but a requirement that a peer, close friend or classmate writes a recommendation on your behalf. So there are 4 full recommendations that Davidson is requiring. And that is extremely important for you to understand. Choose wisely. At least one of your teacher recommendations must come from a core academic subject: English, math, science, history, social science, and or second language. You can, of course, pick 2 from the core as well, but what they're basically saying there is if you want to pick one from like a non-core course, like an art, or maybe even a PE, or some sort of other some other course that's more of elective in nature, then you can do that too. But again, the big takeaway here is that the peer recommendation is great. It's just absolutely great for a peer of yours that hopefully you're really good friends with or close to and can see you day in, day out from a different perspective than an adult can, could also write a letter of recommendation for you. My next tip is specific to the opportunity to upload an optional resume. If you watch a lot of my videos, you know that I'm a big believer in the importance of taking advantage of every opportunity given to you on an application. And just because it's optional doesn't mean you skip it. Because it's optional means you should grab it by the horns and not let go. And an optional resume upload, which is available to you on the writing supplement for Davidson, is something that I think should be considered required. Even if you have completed the Common App activities page, all 10 activities in that activities page, I still say you want to do a full-fledged, unabridged extracurricular resume demonstrating your full awesomeness and everything you've achieved outside the classroom since the summer after 8th grade and later. And how do you put together just a wonderful extracurricular resume? You may say, well, Craig, do I find a template online? How do I put together a resume? I've never done that before. Well, I'm very happy you asked, because I actually have a short course. It's less than an hour in length. It's $19. So this is really cheap. And you can go to extraordinaryresume.com. It's also linked in this video description to purchase my classic course, How to Build an Extraordinary Extracurricular Resume. This will teach you exactly how to structure your resume in such a way as to tease out more information than you could ever fit on the Common App's activities page, so that when you do upload a supplemental resume to Davidson Supplement to the Common App, it is actually presenting value added and more details about the depth and breadth of what you have achieved in the extracurricular realm since the summer after 8th grade and later than your activities page ever could. So please don't look at that optional resume upload on the Davidson Supplement as optional. Look at it as required. Even if only you did 3 activities throughout high school, which I think is pretty paltry. Let's say that's the case. But you probably have more to say about those 3 extracurricular activities than that fits in the 3 little slots for those activities on the activities page. So you might as well elaborate on your full-fledged extracurricular resume that you're going to upload to the Davidson Supplement about all 3 of those activities. But let's say you have 20 activities. The only ones that will fit are the top 10 on the activities page. So you want to use your resume to elaborate maybe not just about those top 10, but also share for the first time with Davidson what you did in the next 10 the full 20 activities that you've been a part of. And a lot of Davidson applicants are, in fact, quite involved, quite dynamic individuals in the extracurricular world. And as a result, it's not in any way beyond the realm of possibility that a lot of students applying to and getting into Davidson will have 13, 17, 23 activities. Now, I will say, Davidson does not care about quantity as much as quality. That's true of most colleges. So don't just make up activities to try to hit a magic number. That's ridiculous. Don't make up anything. Don't lie. But what's most important is that you are really sharing the depth and breadth of what you've been spending your free time doing throughout your high school career and fully flesh that out. And that's what a resume is for. And you want to organize it just so. And again, that resume course, How to Build an Extraordinary Extracurricular Resume, will teach you how to do just that for Davidson. And then finally, we want to talk today about the Davidson Essays. I love Davidson's essays. I really do. I don't like a lot of colleges' supplemental essays these days in particular, but Davidson's essays are close to my favorite. I don't want to say they're my favorite, but they're pretty close because they're what I think a supplemental essay should be about. Let's look at number one. There are just under 4,000 four-year colleges and universities in the United States. Being as specific as possible, what interests you most about Davidson College? And you have roughly, 250 to 300 words with which to work there. What a great question. They're just going right in for the kill. Be as specific as possible. What interests you most about Davidson? They want to see this as a good fit. They want to make sure you've done your due diligence. Be specific. Do not write something here that you could write to any other similarly sized college you're applying to, or any other college for that matter that you're applying to. If you can write the same essay for any other college you're applying to, you have not gotten as specific as you need to convince the powers that be in the admissions office of Davidson that you are in fact serious about going to Davidson. So if you're really attracted to Davidson because of a particular major, maybe you're interested in econometrics, the econ major that's specifically more a little pre-professional and more math oriented like that. You can do that. You can get deeper into sort of what resonates with you about that particular course of study at the school. If you're really interested in its proximity to Charlotte and also having a nice contained campus as well, so the best of both worlds, you can mention that. But you can't just mention that alone. A lot of colleges will have that. So you need to get even more specific with sort of like a hybrid sort of element. If you're going to mention, let's say, location or size and relative to a city, you need to then layer on something that's also specific to Davidson that is not specific to any other college that also is sort of 20 minutes outside of a big city like Charlotte. So by the end, it has to truly read as bespoke for Davidson College. A lot of kids are attracted to Davidson for its culture, its honor code, the combination of its honor code and the major available, the type of students who go there, the type of feeling they got when they visited, the sport they're going to be able to play there, or a particular club or activities that they feel like they're really going to be able to hit the ground running with from day one in a smaller environment like Davidson offers. Remember, they have only roughly 500, little less than 500 students per entering class. So as a result, you can really make a very concrete argument pulling on 2 to 3 characteristics that are unique to Davidson, or at least combined make Davidson very unique to you in your thesis statement / introduction, then prove the thesis / introduction in a short little body paragraph, and then wrap it up with a conclusion that goes a step beyond the thesis and says something new. Share some new idea that will leave them just wanting you that much more, but is not just repetitive of what you've already said in the body that's proving the thesis and the thesis itself, which is in the intro. So you only have, again, a couple hundred words here, basically 200 to 300 words. Try to use as many of the words available to you as possible, because that way you will feel like you left it all on the field. It's really important. Get specific. If you could write this to Washington and Lee, you have failed. If you could write this to Elon, you have failed. If you could write this to Duke, you have failed. If you could write this to Vanderbilt, you have failed. Get specific to what is attracting you to Davidson. And then finally, there's one more opportunity to get specific about Davidson. And here it is. You may not think it's specific to Davidson, but you can make it specific to Davidson. Davidson encourages students to explore curiosities in and out of the classroom. What is a topic, activity, or idea that excites you? Tell us why. Examples may include hobbies, books, interactions, music, podcasts, movies, etc. Again, you have about 250 to 300 words with which to work. Do not repeat anything you mentioned in the first essay. And then this is why basically you have to consider them in concert as you're strategizing out what you want to share in these two essays. If you've talked a great deal in the first essay about the major you're going to pursue, let's say, at Davidson, I would not go back to that major well again. Like, don't go back to the same well. Try to get water from a new well here. So like, if a lot of your focus, however, was on the life of Davidson outside of the classroom in the first one, maybe this is the one where you talk about books that relate specifically to your career or major interest, because you didn't do so in the first one. So you want to make sure this augments whatever you shared in the first one, does not repeat what you shared in the first one in any way, shape, or form. You want to share a different facet of yourself with Davidson in this response. And as you see, it's greatly broad. There you can talk about just a really great book you loved and interactions you loved having, maybe meeting new people and how much that turns you on, a music you like to listen to and where you find yourself when you listen to such music, why you like these things, a podcast that really motivates you, etc. Remember, the key sentence is a 3-word sentence in this prompt. Don't miss that 3-word sentence. Tell us why. So obviously you have to introduce the topic, activity, or idea that excites you. But you must not forget to tell Davidson why. So it's a good combination, like the first one, frankly, I think, of show and tell. You have to show specifics, and then you have to reflect on the why, on the meaning behind it. Why should they care at Davidson that you like to listen to these types of podcasts? Or why should they care that you engage in this hobby that they're learning about for the first time? Because of course, a hobby is not on an extracurricular resume, only formal activities are. So if you're introducing a new hobby or books you like to read, you gotta not just do a book report on that book or say how much you love that podcast and everything about that podcast that you love. You gotta go deeper and say, well, why? And I mean, maybe it's clear in how you describe it, but hopefully you will take the extra step to show the why, because otherwise you're not truly tackling the prompt. How, again, I would set this up is a 1 to 2 sentence intro with a thesis, a 3 to 7 sentence body paragraph that is proving the thesis, supporting the thesis, and then finally a conclusion sentence or two that says something new and doesn't just restate the thesis in new words. That is really the approach I take on most of my recommendations for these supplemental essays. But again, I really like these because Davidson has given you an opportunity here to share more about your love affair with Davidson. And then of course you're going to be writing about yourself and Davidson in that essay, but you're also going to be sharing more about your love affair, which is something else that turns you on, basically, that you have a curiosity for outside of the classroom or inside the classroom, and take a deep dive on that, at least as much as a deep dive as you can in 300 words. But the thing that I want to make very clear with the second one is you can also mention Davidson. So let's say you talk about how much you like a podcast. Well, I would hope, and this is maybe fodder for the conclusion, but maybe even before the conclusion starts, you can even start mentioning it at the end of your body. You could mention how you see this interest or curiosity evolving at Davidson. That is just like the goal that you have in mind here. You don't want to just you want to sort of read between the lines and say, okay, I've described my love affair over the last 4 years with this type of book or this type of music. But now I have an opportunity with the remaining sentences in this short essay to show how I see this curiosity or interest, exploring it, evolving at Davidson. You can actually name drop a 1 or 2, maybe more if you have space, but probably you won't have too much space, opportunities that pre-exist you at Davidson. Maybe there's a podcasting group at Davidson. Maybe there's a club organization at Davidson with people who are like-minded to you that you see yourself joining because of how much passion you have for this curiosity inside or outside the classroom. So maybe it's research. Maybe you've already started doing research in your high school years and you see yourself doing research with a particular professor that you were not yet able to mention in the first response for Davidson. And now you could mention it here because your whole essay is about loving research and why you love getting in the lab or whatever, or love doing research out in the field. And this could be a great opportunity by the end. It's not going to be the focal point of the whole essay, but by the end to share how you see yourself continuing to do research, for instance, out in the field at Davidson. So try to loop it back to Davidson. Any essay about you is ultimately about Davidson. Any essay about Davidson is ultimately about you. So you have to have that synergy there in order to communicate both explicitly and implicitly to the admissions officers at Davidson that you mean business, that you've thought this out, and you're painting a picture of the connections between you and Davidson and you, so that it's tight by the end of your two arguments in these two essays. And you'll have done that at that point, really everything you can do to make the best case for yourself that you were born for Davidson and Davidson was born for you. Now, I do want to say one more thing. I'm offering a new product during the 24-25 admission cycle. It's called My Pre-Read. When you have finished your Common App and you want to know if it's as strong as possible and whether or not in its current condition your chances of admission are impressive, inconclusive, or inadequate, you want My Pre-Read. Getting My Pre-Read now means having me review your entire application, just like an admissions officer or an admissions committee will review it later, and receiving by email no later than the time you reserve at mypreread.com a comprehensive report highlighting what's working and what's not on your full Common App and one Common App supplement. So again, you could absolutely do this for Davidson College. You could send me your Common App for overall, and of course the supplement for Davidson. I'm going to review the whole thing, just like an admissions officer will Davidson. And if you have yet to submit your Common App by the time you ask for My Pre-Read may motivate you to make adjustments to it before your deadline, in this case, again, at Davidson College. If you've already submitted your Common App to Davidson College, My Pre-Read will prepare you for what I deem to be your likely admissions outcome at Davidson College. In all cases, it is infotainment, after all. It's informational and entertaining. I think it's a fun product. It's well priced. If you want to learn more about My Pre-Read, I've created a whole new website for it, and it's really easy to remember. mypreread.com. To learn more, visit mypreread.com. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process, go to my website, which is collegemeister.com. I'd be remiss if I didn't say good luck on your application to Davidson. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and most importantly, stay stress-free throughout the entire college admissions